Friday. This morning there are no newspapers, no bread, no milk, no news. The sun is shining, and the streets are lively but discreet. All people continue to talk to one another without distinction of class, but nobody knows what any person thinks. The men are smiling, but the women laugh, and their laughter does not displease, for whatever women do and whatever circumstances appear to have a rightness of its own. It seems right that they should scream when danger to themselves is imminent, and it seems right that they should laugh when the danger only threatens others. It is rumoured this morning that Sackville Street has been burnt out and levelled to the ground. It is said that the end is in sight, and it is said that matters are, if anything, rather worse than better. That the volunteers have sallied from some of their strongholds and entrenched themselves, and that in one place alone they have 7 machine guns. That when the houses which they held became untenable, they rushed out and seized other houses, and that pursuing these tactics there seemed to be no reason to believe that the insurrection would ever come to an end. That the streets are filled with volunteers in plain clothes, but having revolvers in their pockets. That the streets are filled with soldiers equally revolvered and plain clothed, and that the least one says on the subject, the less one would have to answer for. None of these people were prepared for the insurrection. The thing had been sprung on them so suddenly that they were unable to take sides, and their feeling of detachment was still so complete that they would have had betted on the business as if it had been a horse race or a dog fight. Many English troops have been landed each night, and it is believed that there are more than 60,000 soldiers in Dublin alone, and that they are supplied with every offensive contrivance which military art has invented. Merrion Square is strongly held by the soldiers. They are posted along both sides of the road at intervals of about 20 paces, and their guns are continually barking up at the roofs which surround them in the great square. It is said that these roofs are held by the volunteers from Mount Street Bridge to the square, and that they hold in like manner wide stretches of the city. They appear to have mapped out the roofs with all the thoroughness that had hitherto been expanded on the roads, and upon these roofs they are so mobile and crafty and so much at home that the work of the soldiers will be exceedingly difficult as well as dangerous. Still, and notwithstanding, men can only take to the roofs for a short time. Up there can be no means of transport, and their ammunition as well as their food will very soon be used up. It is the beginning of the end, and the fact that they have to take to the roofs, even though that be in their programme, means that they are finished. At 11 o'clock there is continuous firing, and snipers firing from the direction of Mount Street and every direction of the city. These sounds are being duplicated. In Camden Street, the sniping and casualties are said to have been very heavy. One man saw 2 volunteers taken from a house by the soldiers. They were placed kneeling in the centre of the road, and within 1 minute of their capture they were dead. Simultaneously there fell several of the firing party. An officer in this part had his brains blown into the roadway. A young girl ran into the road, picked up his cap, and scraped the brains into it. She covered this poor debris with a little straw and carried the hat piously to the nearest hospital in order that the brains might be buried with their owner. The continuation of her story was less gloomy, although it affected the teller equally. There is not, said she, a cat or a dog left alive in Camden Street. They are lying stiff out in the road and up on the roofs. There's lots of women will be sorry for this war, said she, and their pets killed in them. In many parts of the city, hunger began to be troublesome. A girl told me that her family and another that had taken refuge with them had eaten nothing for 3 days. On this day her father managed to get 2 loaves of bread somewhere, and he brought these home. When, said the girl, my father came in with the bread, the whole 14 of us ran at him, and in a minute we were all ashamed, for the loaves were gone to the last crumb, and we were all as hungry as we had been before he came in. The poor man, said she, he did not even get a bit for himself. She held that the poor people were against the volunteers. During the night the firing was heavy from almost every direction, and in the direction of Sackville Street a red glare told again of the fire. It is hard to get to bed these nights. It is hard even to sit down, for the moment one sits down, One stands immediately up again, resuming that ridiculous ship's march from window to the wall and back. I am foot weary as I have never been before in my life, and I cannot say that I am excited. No person in Dublin is excited, but that there exists a state of tension and expectancy which is mentally more exasperating than any excitement could be. The absence of news is largely responsible for this. We do not know what has happened, what is happening, or what is going to happen, and the reversion to barbarism, for barbarism is largely a lack of news, disturbs us. Each night we have got to bed at last murmuring, I wonder will be all over tomorrow. And this night the like question accompanied us.